In October 2024, the Indiana Fever president uttered a single phrase, "T went unnoticed." After 9 months, the whole fan base of Caitlin Clark was devastated when that one word went viral. She likened the Fever to an apple. You won't be able to view this brand in the same light until you realize why it struck so deeply. Because the president's social media account completely disappeared a few hours after that video reappeared. There was stillness, neither a declaration nor an explanation. Something in the front office was aware of how awful this appeared. Stay tuned because what I'm going to reveal will alter your perception of who is actually running the Indiana show. Before Caitlin Clark, the Indiana Fever. Look, before we can comprehend why the Apple remark was so offensive, you must comprehend the Indiana Fever situation prior to Caitlin Clark's arrival. And the real deal? They were a farce. I'm simply being honest. I'm not being cruel. Check out the record book's .6 victories in 2021, 5 in 2022, 13 wins in 2023. It's not a difficult area, it's not a reconstruction. That's almost 10 years of being among the least relevant franchises in basketball as a professional. There are empty arenas, no national TV games, no excitement, and no attention. The Fever was present in the same manner. There is background music in an elevator, no one was looking at it, even though you knew it was there on some evenings. The Indiana. The size of the audience wouldn't have changed if Fever had performed in a high school gym. We are discussing home games, where just 4,000 or 5,000 people showed up, yet even those figures were substantial in an arena with 17,000 seats. This meant that every night there would be rows and rows of vacant blue seats. In essence, players were performing for loved ones, friends, and a few ardent supporters who had been attending since the Tamika Catchings era. Speaking of Tamika Catchings, let's discuss what contributed to the agony of her descent. The Indiana Fever weren't meant to be unimportant. There was actual history behind this franchise. In 2009, they advanced to the WNBA championships. In 2012, they took home the title. Here is Kathy Engelberg, the commissioner, congratulating the Indiana Fever on winning the Commissioner's Cup. "Michael, thank you." In front of a crowded Bankers Life Fieldhouse, Catchings raised that trophy. In 2015, they returned to the finals. They were among the top-run women's basketball organizations for a while. After Catchings retired in 2016, everything collapsed. The jersey retiring ceremony for Tamika Catchings is scheduled for halftime. In opposition to the LA Sparks. Year after year of missing the playoffs, 8 consecutive losing seasons, coaching changes, front office instability, the kind of gradual, agonizing demise that transforms a winning team into a overlooked one. The Indiana Fever had the worst WNBA record by 2023, and the majority of casual fans couldn't even mention a single member of the team. It seemed unimaginable for players to be drafted there. Free agents didn't compete to sign there. The promotion was unseen, the product on the court was subpar, and the entire company felt as if it were running automatically. Then April 2024 came. The first overall was held by the Fever. Selection in the WNBA draft. Furthermore, the individual they chose wasn't merely a basketball player. She was incredible. A talent that spans generations. The nation's most viewed collegiate basketball player, male or female, in years. More people watched her Iowa vs. LSU rematch in the Elite Eight, 12.3 million, than the men's Final Four. More than Monday Night Football games, more than the World Series. Caitlin Clark entered Indianapolis on foot. And everything changed all at once, not gradually, not over the course of a season. Her first preseason game in Dallas took place overnight. A preseason game drew 13,000 spectators. Her home opener for the regular season sold out in a matter of hours. Available for purchase. Suddenly, every road game became the most attended event in the history of that opponent's building. To meet the demand, Washington moved a Fever game to the Wizards Arena. Connecticut, Las Vegas, and Phoenix. Every city was sold out. TV ratings broke decades-old records. Over 2.5 million people attended some games. Viewers, numbers that the WNBA had never seen before. The league was unable to replenish the jerseys because they were selling out so quickly. On websites that had never shown a WNBA clip, highlights of her 30-foot step-back threes went viral. Earlier, The Indiana Fever were the most talked about women's team for perhaps the first time in history. Basketball. This is the crucial portion. The organization had nothing to do with it. Coaching has nothing to do with it. A marketing campaign was not the cause of any of it. There was just one player. Just one participant. That information will be important. A lot in a single minute. The Apple remark that caused a stir. This is where the plot takes a significant turn. When the Fever recognized what they had and knew that Caitlin Clark had changed on her own, they took action at the very beginning to transform them from a neglected team into the most sought-after property in women's sports. At the pinnacle of their company, Kelly Krauskopf was reinstated as president of basketball in October 2024. Commercial activities. This made excellent sense on paper. Krauskopf was no outsider. She had previously experienced a fever. She was a prominent architect. Of the squad that took home the team's lone trophy in 2012, she was credible as a champion. Her roots were in Indiana. She was knowledgeable about institutions. During the news conference, they introduced her. There was hopeful spirit in the room. Hopeful. We'll begin with our basketball operations Fever president. Kopf, Kelly Daty Last, the president of the Fever, suited the occasion. Someone who knew basketball. Someone who could establish a dynasty around Caitlin Clark. Krauskopf then took action to the microphone. She also made a statement. She said that Aaliyah and Caitlin Clark were the subject of the Indiana Fever. Boston as key players they plan to cultivate. Sounds fantastic, typical, and affordable. However, she continued. And these are the words that would ignite the entire fan base 9 months later. She declared her desire for the Fever to develop into a national leader and enduring brand similar to Apple. Nobody recoiled at that moment. No one took notice. For a new president to say, "Aim high," seemed like a polished and aspirational statement. Create a brand and think big. The press conference came to a close. The stories were written by the reporters. The world went on. That video was only available online for 9 months, buried, forgotten up to July 2025. Everything changed at that point. Caitlin Clark had been battling a groin strain for weeks. By July 2025, she had only participated in 11 games. The Fever was losing steam but was on the verge of qualifying for the playoffs. Observing their celebrity in the street infuriated fans. Clothing every night while observing the decline in ticket values on resale websites, observing the sharp decline in TV ratings. And someone who was looking over old tape, someone who recalled the news conference, took out the Apple footage once more and uploaded it. After that, the internet did what it usually does. In a matter of hours, the video went viral. But not in the manner that Krauskopf would have preferred. Because this is what fans discovered, and it's the amazing part of why this remark backfired so severely. Apple is more than just a profitable business. The most well-known example is Apple. In contemporary history of a company that almost went out of business after its visionary founder departed. Following Steve Jobs' departure from Apple Inc., the business nearly went out of business in the 1980s. Without his vision, his star power, and the brilliance that propels everything, Apple turned into just another forgettable tech business that was on the decline. Thus, when Caitlin Clark's fan base, they didn't hear ambition when their team president compared the Fever to Apple. They heard something quite different. They overheard the front desk referring to Caitlin Clark as an ingredient, a part of the machine, or a part of a brand. Not the whole reason that any of this ever happened in the first place. Social media comment sections erupted as fans crowded the platform. One fan commented about enduring brands and how Steve Jobs, Apple's star and visionary, was the only reason the company became a global icon. Another fan went even farther, speculating that the Fever will eventually acknowledge that they had squandered the biggest chance in women's. When Clark finally lost patience with the front office, sports history was made. The critique wasn't merely chatter. It was loud, well-coordinated, and hard to ignore. Then something occurred that exacerbated the situation. Kelly Krauskopf's whole social media profile disappeared a few hours after the video became viral. Nothing to say. No apology, no justification. Just quiet. Suddenly, there was nothing where there had been an active account just days before. Fans' questions about whether the organization was shaken were all answered by that disappearance. Query. Something in the front office was aware of how awful this appeared. what the athletes actually think within the Fever. This is where things start to become pretty interesting. Due to the fact that the front office was being set on fire online, the real players on the court were discreetly revealing a whole different story while Krauskopf was hiding behind erased accounts. Distinct narrative, one that is far more truthful, a narrative that the media had been misreporting for the past 2 days. Years. Lexi Hull was the first. One of Caitlin Clark's closest teammates is Lexi Hull. She worked with Glamour on a feature. She didn't hold back when it came to magazine. She made a statement that no one in a Fever uniform had ever made. Ready to acknowledge in public up until that point. There was jealousy, she claimed. True jealousy around the league. Due to the media interest and the fans who had begun to show up since Caitlin's arrival. Due to the enthusiasm around this franchise. Subsequently, she revealed even more information. Rival teams had been